And back to our regular scheduled programming. If you remember back to my Lachlan Giles and Jason Rao videos, I talked about how Rao believes to get good at jiu-jitsu is to recognize patterns and moves and see them in different iterations.
I think what makes somebody good at jiu-jitsu is like a unique ability to recognize patterns, really pattern recognition in all these intricate various positions we find ourselves in, and be able to apply like a movement they learned in one position and apply it in multiple positions where that movement is applicable.
Like how a bolo can be seen as the precursor to an upside-down referee's position in wrestling, or how arm drags and knee-to-knee off balances are both a sort of two-on-one control that articulate the joint into affecting or moving the rest of the body. Well, look at what we have here. Advanced and effective guard passing by Ethan Crelinsten, back again with the juiciest Jew in jiu-jitsu. Now, I know I've reviewed Ethan before, and as much as I'd prefer to review more people I haven't reviewed yet, I thought I'd review this one because Ethan being one of the smaller members of B Team, I think he has a well of knowledge that can get around strength with mechanics, and I think his instructionals are still very underrated. I talked about how his back attack instructional, although it had so many gems in it, was a bit convoluted, and the content demonstrations seemed a bit repetitive, as the back is only one position, so it didn't make sense to keep showing it over and over, because you only need one angle when it's attacking the back. Although, it does make more sense with this instructional, as you would have to show the technique from various different angles. However, I'd still much prefer the way Giles edited his instructional, with an explanation and then a compilation of all the angles at the end to cut out all the shifting and shuffling in between angles. I will say though that his back attack instructional had a better theme and was marketed a bit better with his little Back to the Future reference. Here we have another boring old systematically advanced calculations of algebraic quantum intelligent and effective blah blah blah. What is the instructional about? What is the concept? Why should people buy it? If we've learned anything from Craig's instructionals, it's to entice us with curiosity. Of course your instructional is advanced and effective, but there's 1,000 other advanced and effective instructionals out there. So what sets yours apart? What's different about it? What's the theme? Just stand up. It says so much without saying a lot. Ageless jiu-jitsu, it says so much without saying a lot. False reap accusations, it says so little by saying a lot. If I was to rename Ethan's instructional, I would say because its theme is a lot to do with pressure, keeping constant pressure when passing and pressure passing even when loose passing. I would name it something like, under pressure passovers. This makes more sense as we get to see Spazzy Ethan's method to his madness passing over the guard with things like cartwheels over the top, etc. First off, the Michael Jackson knee folding pass. Amazing. Anytime you can make an analogy, comparison or metaphor, do it. Imagine if the butterfly sweep or sumigaeshi was named the rocking chair sweep. It would save Danaher the time to explain the long-winded phenomenon of being able to push the heavier man in a rocking chair with one finger, but since it isn't, he has to keep repeating the analogy. Humans are visual creatures. We remember and make associations easier when there are other references to connect to them. When you've been training for a long time, you make those references to other moves. For instance, this move is similar to that move but just on a different angle, etc. But when a white belt has no frame of reference, use a more universal one like MJ. Think about when they teach math in school. They don't just say 1 plus 1, no, they say if Sally has 1 apple and adds 1, how many apples does she have? They give us a story to illustrate it so we can picture it. Another thing I like is Ethan's choice of words.
As we fight to maintain our knee-elbow connections, we're also fighting to harass and open our opponent's knee-elbow connections.
It's pretty easy for me to just put pressure on him just by existing in that space.
There was a study done in 2016 for movement science and sports psychology that put a group of professional golfers against a group of novice golfers. The study recorded results of the two groups to hit a golf ball once, as fast as they could, which unsurprisingly the pro golfers performed better than the novice golfers, but the second time, they asked the golfers to hit the golf ball slower, which dragged out the time longer than the pro golfers needed. The pro golfers still beat the novice golfers but did worse than the first time, while the novice golfers did better than their first time. The study also showed that when the novice golfers were given step-by-step technical verbiage and mechanical instructions such as put your arm here, angle your foot at a 45-degree angle, blah blah blah, they performed poorly, but when they were given less technical instructions and more with poetic license such as be swift, or swing smooth, etc., they still did not beat the pro golfers, but they did however do better than their previous attempts. What does this mean? When there was more time needed for an action than required, it seems as though the professionals got into their heads trying to break down a skill that they already had ingrained as second nature. Conversely, the amateurs trying to acquire the skill had an easier time associating the movements with the words rather than the steps. As the steps seemed to create a dissonance between mind and body, whereas words like swift and smooth allowed them to access the movements easier, as it boiled down many steps into single words, making for a more efficient translation. So words like harassing his frames not only convey the actions but also the intensity, volume, tenacity, etc. Conversely, this can also apply to words like just existing in this space, conveying the absence of unnecessary movements, intensity or intent. Then again, the study could have been BS, much like everything and everyone on the internet. Interesting to see the juxtaposition between his loose passing philosophy and now this willingness to engage dangerous guards to keep the pressure on. He reconciles this with things like cartwheels, 2-on-1 Michael Jackson knee control and floating wrestle-up sprawls, which may look like spazzing, but given Ethan's size and style, I think as a chaotic movement-based scrambler this is how he has to create opportunities while also applying pressure, where it does end up looking just spazzy. His style may not be the prettiest, but it's certainly very effective at getting the job done without leg locks. His cartwheels and floats however look beautiful to the non-spazzy eye in my opinion. When one of the greatest tools for the guard player is his inversions, it's not fair for the top player/wrestler to not be able to do the same. So, the cartwheel. The wrestler/guard passes inversion. The most jiu-jitsu move in the wrestler's repertoire, a great way to counter elevations while still keeping pressure. I will say however, in keeping with the theme of loose passing, I'm still not a big fan of trying to pass through the guard, but more so around it, especially against really good reverse de la Riva players that can use knee-to-knee off balances or that can counter your scoop pass with what Rao calls a coil arm bar, or even just putting my hand on a really good K-guard player's hip. The rest of the instructional however I give 4 out of 5 circumcised foreskins. So against those really annoying guard players we are more and more limited with our options, especially when they have 4 limbs at their disposal and we have to use 2 of our stupid ones to balance. So what are our other options? We could always try to sit back on one of those limbs, but with all these backtake counters we're gonna need some savvy ankle control, irimi ashi, /outside ashi, /butterfly ashi leg locking resources, and maybe compare them? Let me know if you'd like to see that one next, or if you have other suggestions leave them in the comments below and I'll try to get to them. Peace.